Example 7 says analyze the equation. That is, find the center, transverse axis, vertices, foci, and asymptotes, and then we will graph it. So we need to find 5 things from this equation here. Now we end every lesson the same way, and this is in the wrong form. This is in general form, and I need to put it into this form right here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clump my x's and my y's together. But because my x is negative, I actually want to start with my y. So I'm going to come way over here to make sure I hopefully don't go on my graph paper. I have 9y squared plus 54y minus x squared plus 4x equals, and I'm going to move this 68 over, equals negative 68. Now, before I can start completing the square, which you need to go back into the extras and watch the additional lesson if you haven't already. When I complete the square, my a needs to be 1. So whatever's in front of your square term, you need to pull it out. So I'm going to pull out this 9. That's going to leave me with y squared plus 6y. Now I'm going to leave some room. And not equals. Okay, then we're going to move over here to our x's. Again, I need what's in front of my square term to be 1. This is actually a negative 1, so we need to pull out that negative. So now I have x squared minus 4x, and then we'll leave some room, equals negative 68. Okay, so let's figure out what goes into these blanks right here, and we're going to use b over 2 squared to figure that out. So my b here is 6. 6 over 2 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other, but I am adding more than 9 to this side. What am I actually adding? You multiply and distribute that back, I am adding 81. Do the same formula, figure out what we're adding over here to our x's. My b is negative 4, so negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, and negative 2 squared is 4. But I'm not actually adding 4 over here. What am I actually doing? Well, if you distribute, I am subtracting 4 from that side. Okay, so now let's factor. What multiplies to 9 but adds up to 6? That's going to be 3 and 3. So we get y plus 3 squared minus, which is again that 6 divided by 2 gave me 3. What multiplies to 4 but adds up to a negative 4? And that's 2 and 2. And I made a mistake. What is it? Should be negative 2. So 2 times 2 does multiply to 4, but it adds up to a positive 4. So let's make that a minus 2, which was again what I got when I divided. When I did my b divided by 2, we got negative 2. And then that equals, add or combined all of these together, and we get 9. So this is almost in the right form, but it equals 9. This needs to equal 1. So I'm going to divide everything by 9. These cancel. You can leave this as just y plus 3 squared. But for visual purposes, I'm going to go ahead and put that over 1. Minus x squared minus 2 over 9. And then that's now going to equal 1. So now that I have this in the right form, now I can actually start answering all of these questions here. First thing it wants to know is the center. So I guess I'm fine with that. Okay, what is the center? Pause the video if you want a little bit more time. the center is actually at 2, -3. Okay, we're over here on this version here. Since my y is first, and it is always h, comma k. So h is with my x, change the sign. My k is with my y, change the sign. So that's why I kind of like starting with the transverse axis. That kind of answers the next one. What is my transverse axis? It is parallel to, because my y is first, it doesn't matter that x has a bigger number under it, because my y is first, it is parallel to the y-axis. Okay, now I need my vertices, foci, and asymptote. And to find these, we need our A, B, and C. I come over here and start listing my A, B, and C. Okay, I have a note down here that A is always first. So this is my A squared. I'll go ahead and do it the way I did it that one video because I kind of liked it actually. It's 1. And this is my B squared. So that's 3. So I can go ahead and solve vertices and asymptotes, but let's go ahead and find C so we have all the information. And so if I use B squared equals C squared minus A squared, B squared's 9, A squared is 1. We'll add that over and get 10. Take the square root, and 10 is only 2 times 5, so I don't have a pair of anything that comes out. So my C is square root 10. Okay, now we have all the information that we need. Okay. I personally like using the graphs, but since so many people seem to like these formulas more, I'm going to use these formulas to find my vertice, foci, and asymptote. Okay, so I'm going to write my formula right here. My formula for vertice, right? And if I'm parallel to the y, I'm using everything in this column right here. My vertice formula is h, comma, k plus or minus a. So here is my h and my k. So plug in all these things. H is 2, comma, k is -3, plus or minus my a of 1. So my vertices are going to be 2, comma, -3 plus 1 is -2. And 2, comma, -3 minus 1 will give me -4. Then my foci is h, comma, k plus or minus c. So again, h is 2, k is -3, and then plus or minus my c of square root 10. I don't know if I'm gonna write this kind of small. We'll have 2, comma, -3 plus square root 10, and 2, comma, -3 minus square root 10. Then my formula for asymptote is y minus k equals plus or minus a over b x minus h. So we're going to have y minus my k of -3, so minus a negative becomes plus or minus a over b, so 1/3. And then x minus h, my h is 2. So x minus 2. Squeeze that in there. So here are the 5 things it asks for. Now, if it just wanted to know what is the slope, what would my slope be of my asymptote? My slope would be that plus or minus 1/3. All right, so now let's graph this. Starting with the center, we are at 2, -3. And we'll label that as a C. Because my transverse axis is the y, this all needs to be in a line vertically here, parallel to that y. So I'm going to go up square root 10 for my C, which the square root of 10 is about 3.2. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 and a little extra. And down 1, 2, 3 and a little extra. My B, I'm going to go 3 units to the left and to the right. And then my vertex is 1. So I'm going to go up 1 and down 1 for my B. Let me kind of erase the C. C right here. Okay. So let's make a box between the V and the B. It's a very long rectangular box. And draw in our asymptotes. One. There's 2. And now we will connect our vertices and start hugging those asymptotes. This one is an extremely wide hyperbola. Now, before I stop this video, we're going to answer this bonus question. And let me actually fold my paper real quick. So that we can kind of look at this together. Says, in lesson 5, we talked about how we knew the equation right here was a circle by just looking at it. Then in last lesson, we talked about how we knew this equation here was an ellipse. What characteristics makes this example 7 a hyperbola? So before we do that, let's review again. How did we know this was a circle? There was 3 things. And let me fold this graph or this paper. Okay, from lesson 5, we knew this was a circle because it had both x squared, y squared, had the same signs, they were both positive, and they had the same coefficients. Fold this paper. I was more prepared. I would already have this done. So bear with me. Okay, then we know that this one here was an ellipse because they were both x and y squared, still both same signs, but now different coefficients. We had 9 and a 1. So why do you think that this one here could be a hyperbola? Starts off still the same way. They both have an x squared and y squared. But what makes it different from these two is that these have the same sign. Now, because you have one positive and one negative, we have different signs. That's what breaks it apart and makes it a hyperbola. Different signs. And this one particularly, we had a negative x squared comma and a positive y squared. Okay, so I should be able to look at this and be able to tell that that's a hyperbola because you have both square terms but different signs, meaning you have one positive and one negative.